The Pivot Advantage. Leveraging Change for Business Growth. Written by Ronnie Rowland. Published by Growth Literacy Lounge. Introduction. In today's fast-paced business environment, change isn't just inevitable, it's constant. The markets are shifting faster than ever, customer needs evolve in real time, and unexpected disruptions can knock even the most stable businesses off course. Yet, within this unpredictability lies a powerful opportunity, the chance to not only adapt but to thrive. This book is about seizing that opportunity through one of the most critical skills every successful business leader must master, the art of the pivot. But what exactly is a pivot? For some, it's a course correction after realizing the original plan isn't working. For others, it's a bold reinvention that takes a company to new heights. Whether you're a startup founder, a seasoned entrepreneur, or a business leader guiding a team through turbulent times, knowing when and how to pivot can be the difference between merely surviving and achieving sustained growth. The Pivot Advantage is not just another business book about change, it's a strategic guide for leveraging change in a way that drives growth. We'll explore how to recognize the signs that it's time to pivot, develop a clear and actionable strategy, and execute that pivot with precision and confidence. You'll learn from real-world examples of companies that pivoted successfully, and those that didn't, while gaining practical tools and insights to apply to your own business journey. This book is built on a simple but powerful premise: a well-timed and well-executed pivot is an advantage. In fact, it's often the key factor that separates resilient, thriving businesses from those that fade into obscurity. Companies that master the pivot aren't just responding to change, they're leveraging it as a strategic asset. By the end of this book, you'll see that the most successful business leaders don't fear change, they harness it. They recognize that pivoting isn't a sign of weakness or failure, it's a strategic advantage that drives long-term success. So whether you're refining your business model, rethinking your product offerings, or realigning your company's vision, the Pivot Advantage will equip you with the tools, strategies, and confidence to leverage change and fuel your business growth. Welcome to the journey of mastering the Pivot Advantage. Let's turn the challenges of change into your most powerful growth opportunities. We've noticed that 68% of you watching our videos haven't subscribed to the channel yet. Help us grow by hitting the subscribe button and giving this video a thumbs up. Thank you for inspiring us to keep creating content for you. I would love to hear your thoughts. How did this book resonate with you, and what insights or questions did it inspire? Chapter 1. Recognizing the signs when it's time to pivot. It's often said that timing is everything in business. For companies big and small, knowing when to pivot can be the difference between a strategic move that leads to growth and an ill-timed change that disrupts everything. But how do you know when it's time to pivot? How can you tell whether the challenges you're facing are temporary hurdles to overcome or signals that it's time for a more fundamental shift? In this chapter, we'll dive into the critical signs that indicate it's time to pivot. Whether you're dealing with stagnant growth, shifting market dynamics, or changes in customer behavior, learning to recognize these indicators early on can save your business from stalling, or worse, failing. One of the biggest misconceptions in the entrepreneurial world is that persistence always pays off. While grit and determination are vital, there's a fine line between persistence and stubbornness. Knowing when to pivot doesn't mean giving up on your vision, it means adjusting your strategy to better align with reality. It's about being adaptable and agile while staying true to your long-term goals. Here are some of the most common signs that it might be time to pivot. 1. Stagnant or declining growth. You've done everything you can to grow your business, but revenue has plateaued, or worse, declined. This could be a sign that your current business model or market approach is no longer effective. 2. If you're noticing consistent feedback that your product or service isn't meeting customer needs, or if customers are leaving for competitors, it might be time to reevaluate your offerings. 3. The business landscape is always changing. If there's a significant shift in technology, regulations, or consumer trends, it could make your current approach obsolete. Being attuned to these changes is key to deciding when to pivot. 4. If you or your team are constantly feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, or lacking direction, it could be a sign that the current strategy is unsustainable. A pivot might bring renewed energy and focus. Let's take a look at a real-world example to illustrate these points. When Slack first launched, it wasn't the communication giant we know today. It started as a gaming company called Tiny Speck. Despite their best efforts, the game didn't take off. But along the way, they realized that the internal communication tool they built for their team had massive potential. By recognizing the signs, stagnant growth in their game, and positive feedback on their communication tool, they made a bold pivot. The rest is history. This example underscores a crucial lesson. Pivots often emerge not from failure but from insights gained while pursuing the original idea. It's about keeping your eyes open for opportunities and being willing to make a strategic shift when the moment is right. Is it time for you to pivot? Here are some questions to help you assess whether it's time for your business to pivot. Are you seeing consistent growth, or have things become stagnant? Are your customers still excited about your product or service? Has the market changed in a way that makes your current approach less effective? Is your team aligned and motivated, or is there a sense of frustration and burnout? Taking the time to reflect on these questions can help you make a more informed decision about whether a pivot is the right move. Preparing for a potential pivot. If you're starting to see signs that a pivot might be necessary, here are some steps you can take. 1. Reassess your market to identify new opportunities or emerging trends. 2. Gather customer insights. Dive deeper into customer feedback to understand unmet needs or areas for improvement. 3. Consider whether your current resources team, finances, technology are aligned with a pivot. 4. Engage your team. Start the conversation with your leadership team or key stakeholders about potential pivot options. Pivots are strategic, not reactive. Recognizing the signs that it's time to pivot is about staying proactive rather than reactive. It's about being honest with where your business stands and having the courage to shift when necessary. In the next chapter, we'll explore the mindset needed to embrace change and lead your business through a successful pivot. Chapter 2. The Mindset Shift, Embracing Change with Confidence. In the world of business, there's a common saying: the only constant is change. While this is often repeated, it's much harder to live by, especially when it comes to making significant shifts in your business. Change can be uncomfortable, uncertain, and even frightening. But for those who learn to embrace it, change becomes an opportunity for growth, innovation, and renewed momentum. This chapter is about developing the right mindset to not only accept change but to leverage it as a competitive advantage. Pivoting isn't just about shifting strategies or tweaking your business model, it's about cultivating the mental resilience and agility needed to navigate the unknown. Before you can guide your company through a pivot, you must first prepare yourself to lead with clarity and confidence. When considering a pivot, the first battle is often internal. It's natural to feel resistance. After all, you've invested time, energy, and resources into your current direction. But clinging to what's familiar can be a significant barrier to growth. The best entrepreneurs and leaders know that adaptability isn't just a business skill, it's a mindset. They understand that the willingness to pivot is not a sign of failure but a sign of strength and vision. Adopting a growth mindset, one that sees challenges as opportunities and views setbacks as learning experiences, is essential for making smart pivots. This mindset is what allows leaders to remain agile, optimistic, and forward-thinking even in the face of uncertainty. From risk to opportunity. The word pivot can sometimes carry a negative connotation, as if it means abandoning your original plan or admitting defeat. But in reality, a pivot is a strategic adjustment, not a retreat. It's about finding a better path to your ultimate goal, not giving up on that goal altogether. To reframe the pivot in your mind, start by shifting your perspective from scarcity to abundance. Instead of focusing on what you might lose by pivoting, consider what you stand to gain. A pivot opens new doors, uncovers untapped markets, and creates fresh growth opportunities. Treat your business like a series of experiments. Not every experiment works, and that's okay. What matters is that you learn from each iteration and use those insights to refine your approach. Approach change with curiosity rather than fear. Ask yourself, what could this pivot teach me? What new possibilities could emerge from exploring this new direction? Shifting your mindset takes intentional practice. Here are some actionable strategies you can apply. 1. Focus on the vision, not the obstacles. When considering a pivot, it's easy to get bogged down by potential challenges, financial constraints, operational adjustments, team dynamics. While these are important, they shouldn't overshadow your broader vision. Keep your eyes on the long-term goal and treat the pivot as a means to reach it. 2. Encourage yourself and your team to embrace a continuous learning mindset. In every pivot, there will be unknowns and uncertainties. Rather than seeking perfection, focus on learning, iterating, and improving along the way. 3. Regularly check in with yourself. Are you making decisions from a place of fear, or are you grounded in your vision and purpose? Self-awareness is critical in leading with confidence during times of change. 4. Engage mentors, advisors, or team members who can offer different viewpoints. Sometimes a fresh perspective can reveal opportunities or challenges you hadn't considered. Surrounding yourself with people who challenge your thinking helps you stay open-minded and adaptable. Netflix provides a powerful example of how a bold mindset can lead to extraordinary success. Initially, Netflix was a DVD rental company that mailed movies to customers. However, as streaming technology improved and customer preferences shifted, Netflix recognized the need to pivot. The decision to move away from DVDs and invest heavily in streaming wasn't without risks. It required a complete overhaul of their business model. But by staying focused on the long-term vision of becoming the leading entertainment platform, Netflix not only survived the transition but became a dominant force in the industry. What made this pivot successful wasn't just the strategy, it was the mindset behind it. The leadership at Netflix wasn't afraid to disrupt their own business model. They saw the pivot as an opportunity to redefine the industry and deliver more value to customers. Their willingness to embrace uncertainty and prioritize long-term growth over short-term stability is what ultimately set them apart. Shifting your mindset for success. To help shift your mindset toward embracing change and strategic pivots, consider reflecting on the following. What fears or uncertainties hold you back from embracing change? How can you reframe those fears as opportunities for growth? What's the bigger vision you're working toward, and how could a pivot bring you closer to it? Who in your network can offer valuable perspectives or challenge your thinking? Strengthening your mindset for the pivot ahead. Here are some steps you can take to cultivate the mindset needed for a successful pivot. 1. Schedule regular moments of reflection to assess your mindset and ensure you're approaching decisions with clarity and confidence. 2. Visualize what a successful pivot could look like. Picture the new opportunities and the growth it could bring. This helps reinforce positive thinking and reduces fear. 3. Prepare mentally for different scenarios, both the best and worst outcomes. This helps you stay flexible and resilient, regardless of how the pivot unfolds. A pivot begins in the mind. Before you make a single change to your business strategy, you must first prepare yourself mentally. The right mindset transforms a pivot from a risky move into a strategic advantage. As we move into the next chapter, we'll explore the practical steps involved in crafting a pivot strategy that aligns with your goals and sets you up for sustainable growth. Chapter 3. Crafting your pivot strategy, a roadmap to success. Having the right mindset and recognizing the need to pivot are important first steps. But without a clear, actionable strategy, even the best intentions can lead to confusion, wasted resources, and missed opportunities. In this chapter, we'll take a deep dive into building a pivot strategy that's focused, practical, and aligned with your long-term goals. Whether you're fine-tuning a product, redefining your target market, or overhauling your business model, the key to a successful pivot lies in your ability to craft a strategic plan that keeps your team aligned, minimizes risks, and maximizes the chances of success. A pivot can feel like a leap into the unknown. Without a solid strategy, this leap can quickly turn into a costly misstep. Your strategy is your roadmap. It provides direction, sets priorities, and ensures that every decision you make moves you closer to your desired outcome. A well-thought-out plan doesn't just clarify what needs to change, it details how and why those changes should be implemented, creating a shared understanding across your organization. Step 1. Before you start mapping out your strategy, it's crucial to define your primary objective. What is the main goal driving your pivot? Are you aiming to enter a new market, adjust your business model, or better serve your customers' evolving needs? A successful pivot is rooted in clarity, knowing exactly what you want to achieve and why. Key questions to ask. What problem are we trying to solve with this pivot? How does this pivot align with our broader business goals? What is the ultimate outcome we hope to achieve? Growth, profitability, relevance, or resilience? By narrowing your focus and setting specific, measurable objectives, you lay the foundation for a pivot that's both purposeful and actionable. Step 2. Once your objective is clear, The next step is to evaluate what you have to work with. Understanding your current strengths, weaknesses, and available resources will guide your strategic decisions and highlight areas where additional investments or changes may be needed. Key considerations. Financial health. Do you have the financial resources to fund the pivot, including potential costs for new technology, hiring, or marketing? Team skills and capabilities. Does your team have the expertise and capacity needed to execute the pivot? If not, what additional skills or training might be required? Can your existing processes, systems, and supply chains support the changes you're planning to make? Conducting a comprehensive SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats at this stage provides a clear picture of where your business stands and helps you prioritize where to focus your efforts. Step 3. Explore your pivot options. Choosing the right path forward. Depending on your objective, you may have several potential paths to consider. Each option comes with its own set of risks and rewards, and it's important to choose the one that aligns best with your goals, resources, and market conditions. Common types of pivots. 1. Adjusting your product or service offering to better meet market demand. Example: Instagram's pivot from a check-in app to a photo-sharing platform. 2. Shifting your target audience or entering a new market segment. Example: Starbucks' evolution from selling coffee beans to creating the coffeehouse experience. 3. Changing the way you generate revenue or deliver value. Example: Netflix's transition from DVD rentals to a subscription-based streaming service. 4. Adopting new technology to stay competitive or improve your offerings. Example: Adobe's pivot from selling software licenses to offering a cloud-based subscription model. Weighing your options involves assessing feasibility, customer impact, and alignment with your long-term vision. This step is where strategic foresight and market research come into play. Step 4. Validate your strategy before full commitment. A pivot is a significant move, so it's critical to validate your assumptions before fully committing. Testing and validating your pivot concept allows you to gather feedback, identify potential pitfalls, and make data-driven decisions. Customer interviews and surveys. Engage directly with your customers to understand their needs, preferences, and willingness to adopt the changes you're planning. This feedback can be invaluable in shaping your pivot strategy. Build a simplified version of your pivot idea and test it with a small segment of your market. An MVP lets you gauge interest, test functionality, and gather insights without a full-scale launch. Study your market landscape to understand emerging trends, customer behavior shifts, and what your competitors are doing. This research helps you refine your strategy and position your pivot more effectively. By validating your strategy early, you can reduce the risk of costly mistakes and build a pivot plan that's grounded in real-world insights. Step 5. Once your strategy is validated, it's time to translate it into a clear, actionable plan. This plan should break down your pivot into manageable steps, with timelines, responsibilities, and resources assigned to each stage. Key milestones and deliverables. Identify the major phases of your pivot and set clear milestones to track progress. Breaking the pivot into stages allows you to manage the transition more smoothly and measure success along the way. Resource allocation. Ensure that you have the necessary financial, human, and technological resources in place. Allocate your budget strategically, prioritizing high-impact areas. Change can be disruptive, so it's important to have a plan for managing the transition. This includes communicating with your team, providing training, and addressing any concerns or resistance that arise. Every pivot carries risks. Identify potential obstacles, from market shifts to operational challenges, and develop contingency plans to address them. Step 6. A pivot's success depends heavily on your team's buy-in and alignment. Clear, consistent communication is key to ensuring everyone understands the vision, the reasons behind the pivot, and their role in making it happen. Involve key stakeholders early. Engage team leaders and key stakeholders early in the process to get their input and support. This creates a sense of ownership and commitment across the organization. Set clear expectations. Clearly define roles, responsibilities, and expectations for each team member. Everyone should know what they're responsible for and how their work contributes to the larger goal. Provide ongoing support and training. As new processes and systems are introduced, offer the necessary support and training to ensure your team is fully equipped to execute the pivot. Encourage ongoing feedback from your team. An open dialogue allows you to address concerns, identify issues early, and make adjustments as needed. IBM's shift from a hardware company to a consulting and services powerhouse is a textbook example of a strategic pivot. As technology evolved and the demand for hardware declined, IBM recognized the need to reinvent itself. The pivot involved a deep analysis of market trends, investment in new skills and capabilities, and a phased approach to transitioning from product sales to providing IT services and solutions. By aligning its resources and developing a clear roadmap, IBM successfully repositioned itself as a leader in the services industry, demonstrating the importance of strategic planning, team alignment, and continuous adaptation. Are you ready to pivot? Before moving forward, take a moment to reflect on your pivot strategy. Is your pivot objective clearly defined and aligned with your broader business goals? Have you assessed your resources and identified any gaps that need to be addressed? Have you validated your strategy with customer feedback, market research, or small-scale tests? Do you have a detailed execution plan in place, including timelines, milestones, and risk management strategies? Building your pivot strategy. 1. Clarify your pivot objective. Clearly define what you aim to achieve with your pivot and how it aligns with your long-term vision. 2. Conduct a resource audit. Evaluate your current resources and identify areas that need strengthening or realignment. 3. Explore and validate your options. Research your pivot options, validate your assumptions, and choose the path that offers the greatest potential for success. 4. Create a detailed plan that outlines the steps, timelines, and resources needed to implement your pivot. 5. Communicate and align your team. Ensure that everyone on your team understands the strategy, their role in executing it, and how the pivot will benefit the organization as a whole. A successful pivot doesn't happen by chance. It's the result of thoughtful planning, focused execution, and continuous alignment with your goals. By following a structured approach, validating your strategy, and keeping your team engaged, you can turn your pivot into a powerful driver of growth and resilience. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to communicate your pivot effectively to all stakeholders, ensuring that your customers, employees, and partners are informed, aligned, and ready for what comes next. Chapter 4. Communicating the pivot. Engaging your team and stakeholders. Successfully crafting and executing a pivot is only part of the equation. One of the most critical yet often overlooked aspects of a successful pivot is communication. How you convey the pivot to your team, customers, and other stakeholders can make or break its success. Change, even when necessary, can be unsettling, leading to uncertainty, resistance, or confusion if not communicated effectively. In this chapter, we'll explore how to develop a communication strategy that not only informs but also engages and inspires those involved. We'll discuss the key principles of transparent communication, aligning your team with the pivot vision, and maintaining trust with your customers. Transparency builds trust. Whether you're informing your team, addressing customers, or briefing investors, people appreciate clarity and honesty. A pivot often brings uncertainty, and the worst thing you can do is leave people in the dark. If your team isn't fully on board or if your customers feel blindsided, the pivot could face unnecessary obstacles. A well-crafted communication strategy helps to reduce anxiety by addressing concerns early. Build alignment and commitment among your team members. Foster loyalty among customers by keeping them informed and involved. Strengthen relationships with stakeholders by demonstrating that you have a well-considered plan. Turning resistance into enthusiasm. Team is your greatest asset during a pivot. However, they can also be the most resistant to change. This is understandable. People are naturally wary of change, especially when it involves uncertainty. To ensure your team is aligned and motivated, you need to engage them early and make them feel like active participants in the pivot process. Steps to engaging your team. 1. Transparency starts from within. Bring key team members into the conversation as early as possible. Let them see the reasoning behind the pivot and invite their input. When people feel like they've had a say in the process, they're more likely to be committed to its success. 2. People are more likely to support change if they understand the reasons behind it. Clearly explain why the pivot is necessary, what problem it's solving, and how it aligns with the company's long-term goals. Address potential fears and uncertainties head-on. 3. Highlight the opportunities. Focus on the benefits that the pivot could bring, not just for the company, but for individual team members. Will the pivot open up new career opportunities? Will it allow them to learn new skills or take on more responsibility? Highlighting these personal growth opportunities can build enthusiasm. 4. Create a unified vision. A pivot should come with a clear vision for the future. Paint a picture of what success looks like after the pivot. By uniting your team around a shared vision, you create a sense of purpose that motivates them to push through the challenges that come with change. 5. A pivot may require your team to develop new skills or adapt to new processes. Offer training, resources, and ongoing support to help them succeed. This not only equips them for the pivot but also reinforces that you're invested in their growth. 6. Pivots can be stressful, so it's important to recognize and celebrate progress along the way. Celebrating small wins helps maintain morale and keeps momentum going. Communicating with customers. Keeping loyalty through change. Customers are the lifeblood of your business. Any major change can leave them feeling uncertain or concerned about how it will impact their experience. Therefore, how you communicate the pivot to your customers is crucial. Best practices for customer communication. 1. Don't wait for customers to hear about the pivot through rumors or after the fact. Proactively reach out to them with clear and concise information. The earlier you communicate, the more control you have over the narrative. 2. Frame the pivot in a way that emphasizes the benefits to the customer. How will this change enhance their experience, solve a problem, or add value? Customers need to understand what's in it for them. 3. Meet your customers where they are. Use a combination of email, social media, blog posts, and even direct communication from your sales or support teams. Ensure that your messaging is consistent across all channels. 4. If the pivot involves changes that impact your customers directly, such as new pricing models, updated product features, or shifts in service, provide clear instructions on what they need to do next. Make the transition as seamless as possible for them. 5. Change can cause uncertainty, so create open channels for customers to ask questions and share feedback. Whether it's through surveys, customer service hotlines, or social media, make it easy for them to express their concerns. Actively listening and responding builds trust. 6. If possible, share testimonials or case studies from customers who have already benefited from the pivot. Social proof can be powerful in reassuring hesitant customers, demonstrating control and confidence. Investors, partners, and other key stakeholders are naturally concerned with how the pivot will impact their interests. They need to be confident that you have a well-thought-out plan and the ability to execute it. Tips for stakeholder communication. 1. Clearly articulate the strategic reasons behind the pivot and how it positions the company for future growth. Use data, projections, and market insights to back up your decision. 2. Provide a high-level overview of your pivot strategy, including key milestones, timelines, and metrics for success. This reassures stakeholders that you've thought through the execution details. 3. Every pivot involves risks. Be upfront about potential challenges and explain how you plan to mitigate them. Demonstrating awareness and preparedness builds credibility. 4. Keep stakeholders informed as the pivot progresses. Regular updates on milestones, performance metrics, and customer responses show that you're in control and making steady progress. Microsoft's pivot to the cloud. Microsoft's pivot from being a primarily software company to a cloud-first business serves as a textbook example of effective communication. When CEO Satya Nadella took the reins, he faced resistance both internally and externally as he pushed for a shift toward cloud computing. His strategy included a clear, consistent message that emphasized the long-term vision of making Microsoft a leader in cloud services. Nadella's communication style was transparent, empathetic, and focused on uniting the company around a shared vision. This approach not only won over employees but also built confidence among customers and investors, allowing Microsoft to successfully navigate one of the most significant pivots in its history. Before you announce or implement your pivot, take time to reflect on your communication plan. Have you identified the key messages you need to convey to each group team, customers, stakeholders? Are you prepared to address potential concerns and questions? Do you have a plan for engaging each group and gaining their support? Building a communication plan for your pivot. 1. Segment your audience. Identify the different groups you need to communicate with: team, customers, stakeholders, and tailor your messaging for each. 2. Craft core messages. Develop a set of core messages that are clear, consistent, and aligned with the benefits of the pivot. 3. Determine the best communication channels for each audience, ensuring you reach them where they are. 4. Anticipate questions and concerns, and be ready with responses that address them head-on. 5. Establish a system for collecting and responding to feedback during the pivot process. A successful pivot hinges not only on the strategy behind it, but also on how effectively it's communicated. By being transparent, engaging your team, and keeping your customers and stakeholders informed, you set the stage for a smooth transition. In the next chapter, we'll dive deeper into keeping your customers at the center of your pivot strategy and ensuring that their needs guide your decisions. Chapter 5. Keeping customers at the center. How to pivot without losing your audience. A successful pivot isn't just about changing your product, service, or business model. It's about ensuring your customers remain loyal and engaged throughout the transition. After all, a pivot that doesn't consider customer needs is likely to alienate your audience, no matter how strategically sound the change may be. In this chapter, we'll dive into how to keep your customers at the center of your pivot strategy. We'll explore ways to deeply understand their evolving needs, effectively communicate the changes, and maintain, or even strengthen, their loyalty during your business transformation. Customer loyalty is the cornerstone of any thriving business. During a pivot, that loyalty can be fragile if customers feel left out or underserved. The most successful pivots are those that keep the customer's experience, needs, and feedback front and center. By doing so, businesses can not only retain existing customers but also attract new ones who align with the direction of the pivot. A customer-centric pivot involves more than simply informing customers about changes. It requires actively engaging them in the process and ensuring that the changes you make align with their needs and expectations. The foundation of a customer-centric pivot is a deep understanding of your customers. This means going beyond surface-level insights and getting to the heart of what your customers value, what frustrates them, and how their needs are evolving over time. Here are some strategies to get closer to your customers' needs. 1. Customer feedback loops. Create continuous feedback loops that allow you to gather real-time insights from your customers. This can be done through surveys, interviews, or user testing sessions. The goal is to keep a pulse on how your customers are feeling and what they need as your business evolves. 2. Look at behavioral data, purchasing trends, and customer service interactions. Are there patterns that indicate shifting preferences or unmet needs? Data-driven insights can reveal hidden opportunities and guide the direction of your pivot. 3. Segment your audience. Not all customers are the same. Segment your audience based on behavior, demographics, or purchasing habits to tailor your pivot strategy. This segmentation allows you to meet the specific needs of different customer groups, increasing your chances of retaining them during the transition. 4. Customers appreciate being heard. Engage them in conversation through focus groups, online communities, or social media channels. Open dialogue builds trust and allows you to address concerns before they become barriers to loyalty. Once you have a clear understanding of your customers' needs, the next step is to align your pivot strategy with the value your customers seek. A pivot should enhance or redefine the value you deliver, not detract from it. Here's how you can ensure that your pivot aligns with customer value. 1. What are the primary reasons customers choose your product or service? Is it convenience, cost-effectiveness, innovation, or customer service? Your pivot should either preserve or enhance these core benefits. 2. As you pivot, your unique value proposition may need to evolve. Clearly articulate how the new direction will continue to meet or exceed customer expectations. This updated UVP should be central to your messaging. 3. Don't make customers feel like the pivot is something that's being done to them. Instead, involve them in the process. Share your plans, ask for their opinions, and let them know how their feedback is shaping your decisions. When customers feel invested in the outcome, they're more likely to stick around. One of the biggest risks in a pivot is confusing or losing your customers due to poor communication. Customers need to clearly understand what's changing, why it's changing, and how it benefits them. Here's how to communicate the pivot effectively. 1. Transparency is key. Avoid jargon or vague language. Clearly explain what's changing and why. If there are elements of your product or service that will no longer be available, be upfront about it. 2. Customers care about how the pivot will impact them. Focus your messaging on the benefits they'll experience as a result of the pivot, whether it's improved service, new features, or enhanced value. 3. Use a multi-channel approach. Communicate the pivot across multiple channels: email, social media, your website, and even customer support. Consistency across these channels ensures that no matter how customers engage with your brand, they receive the same message. 4. Offer personalized support. During times of change, some customers may need extra hand-holding. Provide personalized support through one-on-one customer service, dedicated FAQ pages, or live chats to answer questions and ease any concerns. Adobe's pivot to subscription services. Adobe's transition from selling perpetual software licenses to a subscription-based model with Creative Cloud is a prime example of a customer-centric pivot. Initially, this shift faced resistance from loyal customers who were accustomed to purchasing software outright. However, Adobe successfully navigated the transition by focusing on the long-term value the new model would offer. They communicated the benefits of the subscription model, regular updates, cloud storage, and collaborative tools, while offering support and incentives for those making the switch. By keeping customer needs front and center, Adobe was able to turn what could have been a disruptive change into a long-term growth strategy, maintaining customer loyalty during and after the pivot. Customer loyalty doesn't just happen during the pivot, it's something you need to nurture continuously. Here are strategies to keep customers engaged and loyal throughout the pivot process. 1. Show appreciation to your loyal customers by offering exclusive deals, early access to new features, or personalized discounts during the transition. This makes customers feel valued and reinforces their connection to your brand. 2. Keep customers in the loop about how the pivot is progressing. Share updates, celebrate milestones, and let them know how their feedback is shaping the future of the business. 3. A pivot is an opportunity to deepen your relationship with your customers. Make it a priority to listen, respond, and engage with them regularly. The more connected they feel to your brand, the more likely they are to remain loyal. Evaluating your customer-centric approach. Before finalizing your pivot strategy, ask yourself these questions. Does your pivot strategy enhance or diminish the core value your customers receive? Have you involved your customers in the process, and have you acted on their feedback? Are your communication plans clear, consistent, and focused on customer benefits? Putting customers at the center of your pivot. 1. Survey your customers. Use surveys or interviews to gather insights on customer preferences and concerns related to your planned pivot. 2. Segment your audience. Create targeted messaging and offers for different customer segments based on their unique needs. 3. Outline a detailed communication plan that emphasizes transparency and clearly conveys the benefits of the pivot. 4. Set up feedback channels. Establish systems to collect ongoing feedback from customers throughout the pivot process and make adjustments as needed. A successful pivot isn't just about strategic decision-making, it's about putting people first. When customers feel valued, heard, and supported, they're more likely to remain loyal, even as your business undergoes significant changes. In the next chapter, we'll focus on the tactical steps involved in executing your pivot with precision and ensuring that your team, processes, and systems are aligned for success. Chapter 6. Implementing the pivot. Steps to execute with precision. You've identified the signs, cultivated the right mindset, crafted a strategy, and communicated your pivot to your team and customers. Now it's time to put everything into action. But executing a pivot isn't as simple as flipping a switch. It requires careful planning, coordination, and monitoring to ensure that every aspect of your business aligns with the new direction. This chapter is about breaking down the pivot into actionable steps and guiding your team through the transition smoothly and effectively. A brilliant pivot strategy can fail without proper execution. Execution is where ideas meet reality, and where potential pitfalls can either be avoided or become stumbling blocks. While the strategy sets the vision, execution brings it to life through precise, coordinated efforts across your organization. To successfully implement your pivot, you need a detailed plan that addresses 1. The sequencing of tasks. 2. The allocation of resources. 3. The management of change. 4. The continuous monitoring of progress and flexibility to adapt as needed. This chapter will help you build a step-by-step implementation plan that keeps your business moving forward while minimizing disruption. Step 1. Break down the pivot into manageable phases. One of the most common mistakes during a pivot is trying to change everything at once. A sudden, all-at-once shift can overwhelm your team, confuse your customers, and lead to operational breakdowns. Instead, break down the pivot into manageable phases. Each phase should have clear objectives, timelines, and deliverables. Prioritize critical changes. Identify the most crucial changes that need to happen first. These are the changes that will have the most immediate impact on your business's success. Start with changes that are easier to implement and can deliver quick results. Early wins build confidence and help gain buy-in from your team. Implement each phase with enough flexibility to test, gather feedback, and make adjustments before moving on to the next stage. Step 2. Once you have a phased plan, the next step is to align your resources with the new direction. A pivot may require reallocating budgets, reassigning roles, investing in new technologies, or even hiring new talent. Ensuring that your team has the right tools, skills, and support is critical to successful execution. Steps to align resources. Assess your current resources, financial, human, and technological, and identify any gaps. Determine whether you need to make additional investments or reallocate existing resources. Clearly define new roles, responsibilities, and reporting lines. Ensure that everyone understands how their contributions fit into the pivot and how success will be measured. Leverage external expertise. In some cases, you may need to bring in outside expertise, whether through consultants, freelancers, or strategic partnerships, to fill capability gaps quickly. Step 3. Change management is an essential part of any pivot. People naturally resist change, especially when it's unclear how it will impact their roles, responsibilities, or job security. As a leader, your role is to guide your team through the transition by providing clarity, support, and a sense of purpose. Communicate consistently. Keep communication channels open and transparent throughout the pivot. Regular updates, check-ins, and QA sessions help alleviate uncertainty and keep everyone on the same page. Provide training and development. If the pivot requires new skills or workflows, provide training and development opportunities. Equip your team with the knowledge and confidence they need to adapt successfully. Resistance is natural, but it needs to be addressed early. Listen to concerns, understand the root causes, and offer support to help individuals overcome their hesitations. Acknowledge progress along the way. Celebrating milestones reinforces positive momentum and keeps morale high during periods of transition. Step 4. No pivot goes perfectly according to plan. Unexpected challenges will arise, and some assumptions may turn out to be incorrect. That's why continuous monitoring and a willingness to adapt are crucial during execution. Set key performance indicators. Define clear metrics for success. Track progress against these KPIs to assess whether the pivot is achieving its intended outcomes. Gather feedback in real time. Regularly check in with your team, customers, and stakeholders to gather feedback. This feedback can highlight what's working well and where adjustments are needed. Stay agile and iterative. Be prepared to make quick adjustments as you gather new information. An agile mindset allows you to pivot within the pivot if needed, refining your approach based on real-world results. Step 5. Once the pivot is fully implemented, it's time to evaluate the overall impact and solidify the new direction as your business as usual. This involves formalizing new processes, integrating new tools, and ensuring that the entire organization is aligned with the new strategy. Gather key stakeholders to review the pivot's outcomes. Discuss what went well, what could have been done differently, and identify any remaining gaps that need to be addressed. Document and formalize new processes and workflows that have emerged as part of the pivot. Ensure that everyone is clear on how things should operate moving forward. Reinforce the new culture. A successful pivot often comes with shifts in company culture. Reinforce these cultural changes by aligning them with your company's values, recognition programs, and leadership practices. Spotify's pivot to a freemium model. When Spotify first launched, it was one of many music streaming services competing for market share. However, what set Spotify apart was its bold pivot to a freemium model, where basic users could access the platform for free, while premium users paid for added features. This pivot wasn't just a pricing strategy, it was a carefully orchestrated business model shift that involved phased implementation, resource alignment, and customer-centric communication. Spotify gradually rolled out the freemium model in select markets, tested its impact on user behavior, and refined the offering based on feedback. The leadership team was transparent about the reasons behind the pivot and involved users in the process by gathering their input. The result? Spotify grew rapidly to become the market leader in music streaming, with millions of users and a strong brand loyalty base. Are you ready to execute with precision? Before you dive into executing your pivot, take some time to reflect on your readiness. Have you broken down your pivot into clear, manageable phases? Do you have the necessary resources, skills, and support in place? Are your communication and change management strategies ready to go? Have you identified KPIs and a plan for monitoring progress? Planning for a smooth pivot execution. 1. Break down your pivot into phases with clear timelines, objectives, and deliverables for each stage. 2. Conduct a thorough assessment of your resources and identify any gaps that need to be addressed before moving forward. 3. Outline your strategy for guiding your team through the transition, including communication touchpoints, training plans, and methods for addressing resistance. 4. Set up dashboards or systems to track KPIs and gather real-time feedback during the pivot process. Executing a pivot requires precision, adaptability, and strong leadership. With a well-structured implementation plan and a focus on alignment, communication, and monitoring, you can turn your pivot into a powerful strategic advantage. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to measure the success of your pivot and make data-driven decisions to refine your strategy for even greater results. Chapter 7. Measuring the success of your pivot, metrics and analysis for lasting impact. You've planned, communicated, and executed your pivot with precision, but how do you know if it's actually working? The success of a pivot isn't determined by the completion of tasks, it's measured by the impact on your business outcomes. In this chapter, we'll focus on identifying the right metrics, analyzing performance, and making data-driven decisions to refine your pivot strategy. A pivot is not just a one-time event, it's an ongoing process that requires careful evaluation. Without clear metrics and consistent analysis, you're flying blind, and you risk either abandoning a pivot prematurely or sticking with a direction that isn't yielding results. Measuring the success of your pivot is about more than just tracking numbers, it's about gaining insights that can guide future decisions and ensure sustained growth. Step 1. The first step in measuring your pivot's success is defining what success looks like. Every pivot has specific objectives, and your metrics should directly align with those goals. For example, if your pivot involves entering a new market, your success metrics might include market penetration, customer acquisition rates, and revenue growth in that segment. Financial metrics. Revenue growth, profitability, customer lifetime value, and acquisition costs are critical indicators of whether your pivot is financially viable. Customer metrics. Customer satisfaction scores, net promoter scores, customer retention rates, and feedback provide insights into how your pivot is being received by your audience. Efficiency improvements, time to market for new offerings, and cost reductions can highlight how well your pivot is optimizing your internal processes. Market metrics. Market share, brand awareness, and competitive positioning help assess whether your pivot is enhancing your standing in the marketplace. The key is to focus on the metrics that truly reflect the goals of your pivot, rather than getting distracted by vanity metrics that look good on paper but don't drive real impact. Step 2. Establish a baseline and set benchmarks. Before diving into measurement, it's essential to establish a baseline. Where does your business stand before the pivot is fully implemented? This baseline provides a point of comparison that allows you to measure progress and improvement. Look at past performance data to establish realistic benchmarks for your key metrics. Industry standards. Consider industry averages or competitor benchmarks to understand how your pivot stacks up in the broader market. Set ambitious yet achievable targets based on your pivot goals. These targets should stretch your team while remaining grounded in reality. Once you have clear benchmarks, you can track progress and adjust your strategy if you're falling short or exceeding expectations. Step 3. Track metrics in real time. In today's fast-paced business environment, waiting for quarterly or annual reviews is too slow. Implement systems to track key metrics in real time or near real time. By monitoring data regularly, you can spot trends, identify potential issues early, and make course corrections before small problems turn into big ones. Use business intelligence tools like Tableau, Google Data Studio, or Power BI to create dashboards that visualize your metrics in real time. Automated reporting. Set up automated reports that deliver daily, weekly, or monthly updates on your key performance indicators. Establish quick feedback loops with customers, employees, and stakeholders to gather qualitative insights alongside your quantitative metrics. The goal is to create a system where data flows seamlessly and informs decision-making at every level of your organization. Step 4. Analyze data for insights, not just numbers. Tracking metrics is only valuable if you're using the data to generate insights that lead to actionable steps. Data analysis should go beyond surface-level numbers and focus on understanding the why behind the results. Are customers responding positively to your new offering? Is your team struggling with new processes? Digging deeper into the data helps you make informed decisions that align with your long-term vision. Look for patterns and trends over time, rather than focusing on one-off spikes or dips. This helps you understand long-term impacts and avoid knee-jerk reactions. Break down your data by customer segments, product lines, or market regions to identify which areas are performing well and which need attention. If a metric isn't meeting expectations, use root cause analysis techniques like the 5 whys or fishbone diagrams to identify the underlying issues. Data-driven decision-making is the key to refining your pivot strategy. Rather than relying on gut feelings or assumptions, let the insights from your data guide your next steps. Step 5. Iterate and refine based on feedback. One of the hallmarks of a successful pivot is agility. Even after you've implemented your pivot, there will always be room for improvement. Continuous iteration based on data-driven feedback allows you to optimize your pivot over time, ensuring that it delivers maximum value. Strategies for iterative improvement. Schedule regular check-ins with your leadership team to review progress, analyze data, and discuss potential adjustments. Use A/B testing, pilot programs, or controlled experiments to test new ideas before rolling them out at scale. Continuously gather feedback from your customers to understand their evolving needs and adjust your offerings accordingly. The key is to view your pivot as a dynamic, evolving process rather than a one-time event. This mindset ensures that your business remains adaptable and responsive to changes in the market. Amazon's pivot from an online retailer to a cloud computing powerhouse through AWS is one of the most significant business shifts in recent history. The success of this pivot wasn't just due to the strategy but to the meticulous tracking and analysis of key metrics throughout the process. Amazon used data to monitor adoption rates, customer satisfaction, and revenue growth, which allowed them to refine and scale AWS iteratively. Today, AWS generates a significant portion of Amazon's revenue and has become a market leader, all thanks to a data-driven approach that prioritizes continuous improvement. Are you measuring what matters? Before diving into data collection and analysis, reflect on whether you're focusing on the right metrics. Are your metrics aligned with your pivot's core goals? Do you have a system in place to track these metrics in real time? Are you set up to analyze data for actionable insights rather than just reporting numbers? Building a measurement and analysis framework. 1. Identify your key metrics. Determine which metrics are most critical to the success of your pivot and align them with your business goals. 2. Implement dashboards, automated reports, and feedback loops to ensure you have real-time visibility into your pivot's performance. 3. Create a plan for regular data reviews, including who will analyze the data, how often, and what decisions will be based on the findings. 4. Iterate based on insights. Use data-driven insights to make continuous improvements, ensuring your pivot remains on track and evolves with changing conditions. Measuring the success of your pivot is not just about tracking numbers, it's about generating insights that drive meaningful action. By defining clear metrics, establishing benchmarks, tracking progress in real time, and iterating based on feedback, you can ensure that your pivot delivers the results you need. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to stay agile and continuously refine your approach, even after your pivot is in full swing. Chapter 8. Iterating and refining. Pivoting within the pivot. Executing a successful pivot is a major achievement, but it doesn't mean the journey is over. In fact, many of the most successful businesses continue to evolve even after their initial pivot. Why? Because markets keep changing, customer needs shift, and technology advances at a rapid pace. The ability to stay agile and make further adjustments, pivoting within the pivot, is what separates businesses that merely survive from those that thrive. In this chapter, we'll dive into the concept of continuous iteration and refinement. You'll learn how to adopt a mindset of perpetual improvement, stay responsive to changing conditions, and make small strategic shifts that keep your business aligned with evolving opportunities. Think of a pivot as more than just a single decision. It's an ongoing process of testing, learning, and adjusting. Even after a successful pivot, there will be new insights, challenges, and opportunities that require you to refine your approach. This is where iteration comes in. Iteration involves making incremental improvements, rather than waiting for a crisis to force a major change. By iterating continuously, you're better equipped to stay ahead of competitors, respond to customer feedback, and capitalize on emerging trends. So how do you know when your pivot needs another pivot? Here are some signs to look for. 1. As you roll out your pivot, you may receive feedback that suggests further adjustments are needed. Maybe customers love the new product, but they're asking for additional features, or perhaps they're not fully satisfied with certain aspects of the service. 2. Markets are fluid, and opportunities can arise that weren't apparent when you first executed your pivot. If you see a growing demand in an adjacent market or notice a shift in consumer behavior, it could be worth exploring how to adapt your strategy. 3. Monitoring key metrics may highlight areas where your pivot isn't delivering the expected results. Whether it's low customer retention, declining revenue in certain segments, or operational inefficiencies, these indicators can signal the need for further refinement. 4. The rapid pace of technological change means that what works today might be outdated tomorrow. If new tools or platforms become available that could enhance your offerings or improve efficiency, it's worth considering how to integrate them. A framework for continuous improvement. Iteration is not about making random changes, it's a structured approach to ongoing refinement. Here's a framework to guide your iterative process. 1. The first step is to continuously gather data and feedback. This includes monitoring performance metrics, analyzing customer interactions, and staying updated on market trends. Regularly collecting insights ensures that you have a steady flow of information to guide your decisions. 2. Once you have the data, it's time to dig deeper. Look for patterns, identify pain points, and explore potential opportunities. This analysis helps you determine where small adjustments could lead to significant improvements. 3. Before committing to a change, run small-scale tests or experiments. For example, if you're considering adding a new feature, offer it as a limited-time option or roll it out to a subset of customers first. This approach allows you to validate ideas without taking on unnecessary risk. 4. After testing, implement the changes that show the most promise. Ensure that your team is aligned with the adjustments and that processes are updated accordingly. As the changes are rolled out, continue to monitor performance and gather feedback. 5. The iteration cycle is ongoing. After implementing a change, review the results and start the process over again. This continuous loop of observation, analysis, testing, implementation, and review keeps your business nimble and responsive to changing conditions. Facebook's journey is a prime example of the power of iteration. Even after its initial pivot from a college networking site to a global social media platform, Facebook has consistently refined its offerings. Over the years, the company has introduced countless updates, features, and changes, many of which were informed by user feedback, data analysis, and experiments. From the introduction of the news feed to the addition of video content, Facebook's iterative approach has allowed it to stay relevant and dominant in an ever-evolving digital landscape. One of the challenges of continuous iteration is finding the right balance between stability and agility. Too much change can lead to confusion, while too little can cause stagnation. The key is to make adjustments that enhance your core strategy without constantly overhauling it. Tips for striking the balance. Set clear priorities. Not every insight or idea needs to be acted on immediately. Prioritize changes that align with your long-term vision and offer the greatest potential for growth. Keep your team and customers informed about changes. Transparency and clear communication are crucial for maintaining trust and minimizing resistance. Small, steady improvements often lead to better results than drastic shifts. Aim for consistent progress rather than constant disruption. Building a culture of continuous improvement. Before diving into your next iteration, reflect on your current approach. Are you consistently gathering and analyzing insights that could inform small improvements? Do Do you have a structured process for testing and validating changes before full implementation? How are you balancing the need for stability with the need for agility? Establishing an iteration framework. 1. Schedule periodic reviews monthly, quarterly to analyze data, customer feedback, and market trends and identify areas for improvement. 2. Design small, scale tests. Create a process for testing new ideas on a limited scale before rolling them out more broadly. 3. Foster a culture of continuous improvement by encouraging your team to propose ideas for iteration and participate in the testing process. 4. Keep track of all iterations and communicate the reasons for each change to your team and stakeholders. Embracing iteration as a competitive advantage. Successful pivots are not static, they evolve. By embracing a mindset of continuous iteration, you ensure that your business remains agile, responsive, and primed for growth. In the next chapter, we'll explore case studies of businesses that have mastered the art of iteration, offering insights you can apply to your own journey. Chapter 10. Navigating the challenges of pivoting, overcoming obstacles, and managing risks. While the rewards of a successful pivot can be significant, the path is often filled with hurdles, uncertainties, and risks. In this chapter, we'll explore the common challenges businesses face when pivoting and provide strategies to overcome them. From managing resistance within your team to mitigating financial risks, you'll learn how to anticipate and address these obstacles effectively, so your pivot stays on track. Whether it's shifting your business model, entering a new market, or redefining your product offering, resistance is a natural response, both from your team and your customers. The key is to recognize where this resistance comes from and address it proactively. Types of resistance. 1. Internal resistance from your team. Employees might resist a pivot because of fear, uncertainty, or a lack of understanding. They may worry about job security, new responsibilities, or whether they can adapt to new systems or processes. 2. Customers who are accustomed to your current offerings may feel alienated or confused by significant changes. They may worry that the new direction won't meet their needs, or may simply prefer the status quo. 3. Investors, partners, or board members may question whether the pivot is the right move, especially if it involves financial risk or diverges from the original business model they invested in. Early and transparent communication. Keep everyone informed from the start. Explain the reasons behind the pivot, the expected benefits, and how it aligns with your long-term vision. Address concerns directly and provide clear answers to questions. Bring your team and key stakeholders into the decision-making process early. When people feel heard and included, they're more likely to support the pivot. Offer training and support. For your team, provide the necessary resources, training, and development opportunities to help them adapt. Empower them with the tools and knowledge they need to succeed in the new environment. Demonstrate the benefits of the pivot early on by highlighting small victories. These could be early customer feedback, improved performance metrics, or new opportunities that reinforce the value of the change. Every pivot involves financial risks, whether it's the cost of developing new products, entering a new market, or investing in new technology. Balancing the need for change with financial prudence is one of the biggest challenges leaders face during a pivot. Run financial projections. Before fully committing to a pivot, run detailed financial projections. Consider the costs of implementation, the potential revenue streams, and the break-even point. This analysis will help you determine the financial feasibility of the pivot. Start small, then scale. Instead of overhauling your entire business at once, start with pilot programs or limited launches. This approach allows you to test the waters and gather data before making larger investments. Ensure you have a financial cushion to weather unexpected costs or delays. Whether through cash reserves, lines of credit, or strategic partnerships, having extra funds available reduces the pressure and allows you to pivot without jeopardizing your core operations. Depending on the scale of your pivot, you might need to seek external funding. Be prepared to present a compelling case to investors or lenders, demonstrating the growth potential and return on investment of your pivot. Implementing a pivot often requires rethinking your operations, processes, and workflows. From supply chain adjustments to team restructuring, operational challenges can quickly derail a pivot if not managed effectively. Before implementing changes, clearly map out new workflows and processes. Identify dependencies, potential bottlenecks, and areas where automation or technology can improve efficiency. Align your team. Ensure that every team member understands their role in the new operational structure. Clear roles and responsibilities reduce confusion and keep everyone focused on the same goals. Leverage project management tools to track progress, allocate resources, and manage timelines. Tools like Asana, Trello, or Jira can help keep everyone on the same page and ensure that tasks are completed on time. Be prepared for unexpected challenges. Regularly monitor performance metrics and gather feedback from your team. Use this information to make adjustments and fine-tune operations as needed. Pivots often involve entering new markets or competing in different ways, which brings the risk of misjudging the market demand or underestimating competitors. Entering a new space can be a daunting task, especially if you're up against established players. Before pivoting, conduct comprehensive market research to understand demand, competition, and customer behavior in your new target market. Use this information to refine your strategy and positioning. Entering a new market requires a clear value proposition. Identify what sets you apart from competitors and how you can offer unique value to your target audience. Pilot and iterate. Start with a small launch in a new market and gather insights before expanding further. Iterating based on customer feedback helps you refine your approach and increase your chances of success. Consider forming alliances or partnerships with companies that complement your pivot. Strategic partnerships can give you access to new markets, technologies, or customer bases while reducing the risks associated with going it alone. Leading a pivot involves making difficult decisions under pressure, often with incomplete information. It requires balancing short-term needs with long-term goals, managing the expectations of multiple stakeholders, and staying focused amid uncertainty. Stay aligned with your vision. Throughout the pivot, keep your vision and core values front and center. Every decision should align with your broader mission, ensuring that the pivot enhances rather than detracts from your business's long-term goals. You can't do it all. Delegate responsibilities to capable leaders within your organization, empowering them to make decisions and drive the pivot forward. Trusting your team creates buy-in and ensures a smoother transition. Pivoting requires decisiveness, but it also requires the flexibility to adapt when conditions change. Be willing to make tough decisions, but remain open to feedback and course corrections. Pivots are inherently challenging, and setbacks are inevitable. As a leader, it's crucial to maintain resilience, remain optimistic, and lead by example. Your team will look to you for stability and confidence during uncertain times. Airbnb faced one of the most significant challenges in its history when the COVID-19 pandemic brought global travel to a standstill. With bookings plummeting, the company had to pivot quickly. Airbnb adapted by focusing on long-term stays and local experiences, rather than short-term vacation rentals. They introduced new health and safety measures, updated their platform to accommodate longer stays, and promoted work-from-anywhere solutions for remote workers. This pivot required addressing significant challenges. Customer resistance. Many hosts and travelers were wary of traveling or renting properties during the pandemic, requiring Airbnb to rebuild trust. Airbnb had to quickly shift its marketing, operations, and customer support to align with the new focus. The company faced financial strain as it adapted to lower revenue streams and restructured its business to align with new market demands. Through strategic leadership, rapid decision-making, and a customer-centric approach, Airbnb successfully navigated the pivot and emerged stronger, with a renewed focus on flexibility and resilience. Anticipating challenges in your pivot. Before diving into your pivot, consider the potential challenges you may face. Where might you encounter resistance, and how can you address it? What financial risks are involved, and how can you mitigate them? Are your operations prepared for the new direction, or will you need to make adjustments? How will you handle competitive threats and market uncertainties? Overcoming obstacles in your pivot. 1. Conduct a risk assessment. Identify the key risks associated with your pivot, financial, operational, market-related, and develop contingency plans for each. 2. Create a plan to manage internal resistance, including clear communication strategies, training programs, and support resources. 3. Secure financial buffers and review cash flow projections to ensure you have enough flexibility to absorb any unexpected costs. 4. Prepare for market entry. Conduct market research, refine your value proposition, and develop a phased approach to entering new markets. Turning challenges into opportunities. Challenges are inevitable during a pivot, but with the right strategies and mindset, they can be turned into opportunities for growth. By anticipating resistance, managing risks, and staying focused on your vision, you can navigate the obstacles that come your way and position your business for long-term success. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to solidify the changes you've made and build a culture of strategic adaptation that keeps your business agile and resilient in any environment. Chapter 11. Staying Agile. Embedding a culture of continuous adaptation. The business world is in a constant state of flux, and even the best laid plans can become obsolete if companies don't stay agile. Successful pivots are not one-time events, they require an ongoing commitment to learning, adapting, and evolving as new challenges and opportunities emerge. In this chapter, we'll explore how to build a culture of continuous adaptation within your organization, one that not only supports the current pivot, but also ensures that your business remains nimble and resilient in the face of future changes. Agility isn't just about being able to react quickly to changes. It's about embedding a mindset and culture that prioritizes learning, flexibility, and innovation. In an agile organization, every level of the business, from leadership to frontline employees, is encouraged to think creatively, challenge assumptions, and experiment with new approaches. An agile business is better positioned to respond swiftly to market shifts and customer needs, experiment with new ideas and iterate based on feedback, foster a culture of innovation that encourages continuous improvement, reduce risk by identifying and addressing potential issues early. Creating an agile culture starts with the mindset of leadership and extends to every part of the organization. Here's how to foster an environment that supports continuous adaptation. 1. Agile organizations prioritize learning over perfection. This means creating a culture where experimentation is encouraged, mistakes are seen as opportunities to learn, and feedback loops are built into every process. Allow teams to run small experiments and pilot programs to test new ideas. Whether it's a new product feature, a marketing approach, or an operational process, giving your team the freedom to experiment fosters innovation. In an agile culture, failures are viewed not as setbacks but as valuable learning moments. Encourage your team to analyze what went wrong, extract insights, and apply those lessons to future initiatives. Invest in ongoing training programs, workshops, and learning opportunities. An adaptable team is one that's constantly building new skills and staying updated on industry trends. 2. Agility requires breaking down silos and promoting collaboration across departments. When teams work together, they can quickly identify problems, share insights, and develop solutions that are more holistic and effective. Create project teams that bring together people from different functions, such as marketing, product development, sales, and operations, to work on specific initiatives. This diversity of perspectives leads to more innovative solutions. Facilitate open communication. Use tools and platforms that enable real-time communication and collaboration. Regular check-ins, brainstorming sessions, and shared dashboards help keep everyone aligned and informed. Encourage knowledge sharing. Promote a culture where knowledge is openly shared, not hoarded. This could involve regular team presentations, knowledge-sharing platforms, or mentorship programs. 3. In an agile organization, decision-making is decentralized and iterative. This allows for faster responses and greater flexibility in how challenges are addressed. Shift decision-making power closer to the front line. Equip your team with the information and resources they need to make informed decisions quickly. Trust and autonomy are key to enabling agile responses. Instead of long, drawn-out decision-making processes, adopt shorter cycles that allow for rapid iterations. Regularly review progress and make adjustments based on real-time feedback. Use data-driven insights. Make decisions based on data and insights rather than assumptions. Regularly analyze performance metrics, customer feedback, and market trends to inform your strategy. Spotify is often cited as a model of organizational agility. The company is structured around squads, small cross-functional teams with the autonomy to make decisions and innovate within their areas. This structure allows Spotify to experiment continuously, iterate quickly, and roll out updates and new features faster than many of its competitors. The company's fail-fast mentality encourages teams to take calculated risks and learn from both successes and failures. By embedding agility into its core operations, Spotify has maintained a competitive edge in the ever-evolving music streaming industry. Despite the benefits, building an agile culture is not without challenges. Some common barriers include resistance to change, outdated processes, and rigid hierarchies. Here's how to address these obstacles. Resistance often stems from fear of the unknown or a reluctance to leave behind familiar processes. Address these concerns by clearly communicating the benefits of agility, involving employees in the change process, and providing support and training. Outdated processes can slow down decision-making and stifle innovation. Regularly review and optimize your workflows to ensure they support, rather than hinder, agility. Rigid hierarchies can slow down decision-making and stifle creativity. Encourage a flatter organizational structure where ideas can flow freely and everyone is empowered to contribute. Sustaining agility over the long term. Embedding agility into your organization is not a one-time initiative, it requires ongoing commitment. Here are some strategies for sustaining agility over the long term. Periodically assess your organization's agility and make adjustments as needed. This could involve revisiting your decision-making processes, refreshing your training programs, or realigning your team structure. Keep your customers at the center of your agility efforts. Continuously gather customer feedback, track changes in customer behavior, and adapt your offerings to meet evolving needs. Foster a growth mindset. Encourage your team to always be looking for ways to improve, learn new skills, and take on new challenges. A growth mindset keeps your organization forward-looking and ready to adapt to whatever comes next. Is your organization ready to stay agile? Before embedding agility into your organization, reflect on these questions. How does your current organizational culture support or hinder agility? Are your decision-making processes aligned with the principles of agility? Do your teams have the autonomy and resources they need to experiment and innovate? Building and sustaining an agile culture. 1. Conduct an agility audit. Evaluate your current processes, culture, and team structures to identify areas where agility can be improved. 2. Establish teams that bring together diverse perspectives to drive innovation and problem-solving. 3. Empower frontline decision-making. Push decision-making power closer to those who are closest to the issues, allowing for faster, more informed responses. 4. Launch continuous learning initiatives. Implement training and development programs focused on building agility skills, such as adaptability, creative problem-solving, and iterative thinking. In a world where change is the only constant, agility is your greatest strategic advantage. By embedding a culture of continuous adaptation within your organization, you not only prepare your business to thrive through its current pivot, but also ensure it remains resilient and responsive to whatever challenges and opportunities lie ahead. In the final chapter, we'll bring everything together, focusing on how to solidify your pivot and build a culture of strategic resilience that can sustain your business for the long term. Chapter 12. Conclusion. Embracing a culture of strategic resilience. As we reach the conclusion of our journey through the pivot advantage, it's clear that pivoting is not just about making one-time changes. It's about embracing a mindset and culture that allows your business to thrive in an ever-changing landscape. The true power of a successful pivot lies in your ability to remain resilient, adaptive, and forward-thinking, long after the initial pivot has been executed. Throughout this book, we've explored the critical components of a successful pivot, from recognizing when it's time to make a change to crafting a strategic plan, communicating effectively, and implementing the pivot with precision. We've also delved into the importance of measuring success, iterating based on feedback, and overcoming the inevitable challenges that arise along the way. But beyond these practical steps lies a deeper truth: the most successful businesses are those that cultivate a culture of strategic resilience. This resilience isn't just about bouncing back from setbacks, it's about anticipating change, proactively adapting, and continuously evolving to stay ahead of the curve. As you move forward, keep in mind the key pillars of strategic resilience that will sustain your business through any pivot and beyond. 1. Your vision and purpose are your guiding stars. They anchor your business through change and keep your team aligned and motivated. A strong, clear vision provides direction, while a compelling purpose fuels passion and commitment. Every pivot, every adjustment, should serve to bring you closer to realizing that vision. Revisit and refine your company's vision and purpose regularly. Ensure that every pivot and strategic decision is aligned with your long-term goals. 2. Adaptability is the cornerstone of resilience. It's the ability to adjust your strategy, operations, and mindset in response to new information, challenges, and opportunities. An adaptable organization is one that doesn't just survive change, it thrives on it. Foster a mindset of adaptability across your organization. Encourage your team to embrace change, experiment with new ideas, and learn from every experience. 3. Your customers are the lifeblood of your business. Keeping them at the center of your pivot strategy ensures that your business remains relevant, valuable, and trusted. A customer-centric approach allows you to anticipate and meet evolving needs, building loyalty and driving growth. Continuously gather and act on customer feedback. Use this feedback to guide your pivots, refine your offerings, and enhance the overall customer experience. 4. Resilient businesses are those that never stop learning. They view every challenge as an opportunity to grow and every setback as a lesson to be applied moving forward. This culture of continuous improvement keeps your business agile, innovative, and prepared for the future. Embed continuous learning into your organizational culture. Provide opportunities for your team to develop new skills, experiment with new approaches, and reflect on their experiences. 5. Resilient businesses are led by leaders who inspire, empower, and support their teams. These leaders are decisive yet flexible, confident yet open to new ideas. They create an environment where everyone feels valued, trusted, and empowered to contribute to the organization's success. Develop leadership skills at every level of your organization. Encourage leaders to lead with empathy, communicate transparently, and empower their teams to make decisions and take ownership of their work. Amazon's journey is a testament to the power of strategic resilience. From its origins as an online bookstore to its expansion into e-commerce, cloud computing, streaming, and beyond, Amazon has continuously evolved to stay ahead of the market. The company's willingness to pivot, experiment, and take calculated risks has made it one of the most successful and resilient businesses in the world. Amazon's ability to anticipate customer needs, leverage technology, and maintain a long-term vision has allowed it to not only survive but thrive in a highly competitive and rapidly changing environment. As you conclude this book, you're not just closing a chapter, you're opening a new one for your business. The insights, strategies, and lessons you've gained here are tools to help you navigate your own pivot and build a resilient organization that can withstand and capitalize on change. Take a moment to reflect on where your business stands today. What challenges are you facing? What opportunities are emerging? How can you apply the principles of strategic resilience to ensure that your business not only survives but thrives in the future? Conduct a strategic review of your business. Identify areas where you can apply the lessons from this book, and develop a plan for implementing these changes. The journey doesn't end with this pivot. It's an ongoing process of growth, learning, and adaptation. Commit to fostering a culture of continuous improvement and strategic resilience within your organization. Set aside time for regular reflection and strategic planning. Make it a habit to assess your progress, celebrate your successes, and identify areas for further growth. The ability to pivot effectively is one of the most valuable skills a business can possess. It allows you to turn challenges into opportunities, adapt to changing conditions, and continuously evolve to meet the needs of your customers and the market. But more than that, the pivot advantage is about building a resilient, adaptive organization that is prepared for whatever the future holds. As you move forward, remember that every pivot, every change, and every challenge is an opportunity to grow stronger, smarter, and more resilient. By embracing a culture of strategic resilience, you equip your business not just to survive, but to thrive today, tomorrow, and for years to come. Final words. As you move forward from here, remember that the journey of pivoting and growth is never truly complete. The ability to adapt, innovate, and stay resilient in the face of change is what sets thriving businesses apart. Challenges will come, but with the right mindset, strategy, and a commitment to continuous improvement, every obstacle can become an opportunity. You've gained the tools to navigate your pivot and build a business that not only survives but flourishes in an ever-evolving landscape. Keep your vision clear, stay focused on your customers, and remain agile in your approach. The path ahead may be unpredictable, but with the pivot advantage, you're ready to turn every twist and turn into a strategic advantage. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Here's to embracing change, leading with purpose, and building a future filled with growth and success. Keep pivoting forward, take care, and be well.